What's up? Welcome in on this Thursday, August 13th, 2026. We've got a full-ish weekend of preseason football coming at us. More college football complete idiocy this morning. As we've said the last couple of times here, well, today ends in why water's wet, and most of the time the sky is blue, so nothing's new here. Lots to talk about today at noon. I'll be joined by the host of Cashing Out on VSIN, Dustin Swedelson. He'll join me. We'll talk a little college football, a little NFL, some of the stuff he likes, maybe some pieces of advice for some of the noobs this year that are going to dabble into the football side of sports betting, and maybe you've been doing it for a while and you just need some decent pieces of advice. Also, did the MLB owners out themselves today? I'm pretty sure they did. Not that that's shocking, but we'll get into that too. Feel free to comment along if you're watching along. Get up in here, man. Plenty to talk about. Follow us on all of our social channels, at Mike Arana Show, everywhere but Snapchat. You know the drill. Why? Sign up for the newsletter, MikeAranaShow.com/links. Man, where do we start on this Thursday? There is so much stuff to talk about. Every morning you wake up in the sports world, it's just a great thing. Because there is never a shortage of anything. Like, go to practice as a reporter, but don't actually report. Yeah, that's what's going on in Colorado. Whose number is whose? I'm going to make sure that in the next minute I don't say anything because it would be 11:35 out here on the West Coast. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to emphasize the number 5 without being sued by Jaden Daniels. Like, seriously, this is what we're whining and complaining about? Don't you have other things to pay attention to, Jaden? As our guy You Got Roz points out, the NBA schedule fully released in 30 minutes. Yay. I mean, we know what the key games are, and like we know, the NBA doesn't really start until after the Super Bowl to me. It used to be Christmas for me, but the NFL has done taking that over, and I'm pretty sure that most people won't complain about it. A lot of flack for J.J. McCarthy going around, too. I didn't get to it last night on the show because we ran out of times, but coming soon to True TV or a network near you, Flip This Team, Los Angeles Lakers edition. So I said, man, you're never short of anything to talk about in the sports world. It's freaking great. It's great. Tempers flaring at training camps, and we got day baseball going on right now. Cincinnati wearing out the White Sox. Seattle and the Yankees playing another just how not to play offensive baseball game. 1-0 in the Bronx. 8-4 on the south side of Chicago, the Reds over the White Sox. Pittsburgh's up 2-0 on the Marlins in the top of the 6th with the bases loaded. Cleveland and Detroit 1-0 in the 6th, bottom of the 6th there. Kind of a pitcher's duel, which is great for me because I took the under, but not great for me because I also have the Guardians on a separate ticket. Guardians offense has been MIA, milk carton status for the Guards. So plenty of stuff to get to as far as that goes. Yes, you absolutely know the answer to that. No. 0 plans to go down to the U.S. Matchup Footprint Center to see anything. Got a perfectly good arena, hell of a lot closer to me. It's a shame we can't use that for anything. Our guy Cody checking in. Been a few days. Missed you, buddy. Yeah, that's exactly where we're going. This Jaden Daniels story. Cease and desist is always... There's always a good follow-up story to cease and desist. The National Collegiate Cease and Desist Organization. I mean, you can't do anything in college football anymore without suing somebody or threatening to sue somebody. An attorney representing Washington Commanders quarterback Jaden Daniels has informed Louisiana State University, which is in Louisiana, which is a place that Sam Levitt just found out existed, apparently not that long ago. Man, how could this go bad for LSU? Another ASU quarterback coming to LSU. Well, Jaden was great. He won the Heisman. He didn't win shit else. But LSU has been informed by Washington Commanders quarterback Jaden Daniels' attorney. I'm not going to say the obvious because everybody's already saying the obvious. I cannot confirm nor deny if the attorney is his mom. Everybody's dragging his mom, and I understand why. I'm not going to do that. But at the center of the dispute, according to the statement from Daniels' spokesperson that was given to ESPN, as passed to us from Mark Schlabach, the Tigers are allowing sophomore cornerback DJ Pickett to wear the number 5 jersey that Daniels wore when he became LSU's third Heisman Trophy winner in 2023. The Daniels family is deeply disappointed and feels profoundly disrespected by LSU's decision to give Jaden's number to another player. Jaden and his family had every reason to believe that his number would remain a meaningful part of his LSU legacy, really long LSU legacy, and would be honored and protected in recognition of his extraordinary contributions to the university. I mean, what do you do with that? First of all, Jaden, I wore number 5 before you did, if we want to just start throwing this stuff out there. Second of all, there's also a report that they've asked LSU to return the Heisman Trophy that he won, which is extremely comical if true, because if you know anything about the Heisman Trophy, there's 2 Heismans given out. One to the university and one to the, quote, student athlete. So Jaden's basically just asking for another Heisman Trophy from LSU. Because he already has one. A lot of people are saying it's not a number issue, it's an NIL issue. I'm not in Louisiana, nor am I on an LSU mailing list, so I cannot speak to this on 100% truth, but I'm going to go out on a Bayou-style limb here and say, I'm pretty sure they're not rolling out any promotional material this year with Jaden Daniels' name, image, and likeness on it. Seems to me that there's been a couple other bigger things that have happened to LSU football that you might want to market to your fan base that way. Cease and desist? What are we doing here? Jaden, don't you have anything better to focus on right now? Well, Joe Burrow's number's not being given out. Joe Burrow was on one of the best college football teams we've seen in recent memory that won a national championship. Jaden Daniels won a Heisman in a stat-padded campaign in garbage time during this process. Family. Brian Kelly's administration at LSU promised, but then backed off of their promise about giving Pickett the number 5. Lane Kiffin, who everybody loves to hate, brings a lot of it on himself, said he felt it was important to honor that promise, and why it wasn't honored before, he wasn't going to get into it. David Pollack, I think, said it best today. He loves that players at Georgia are wearing his number because, as he said, it was worn before I wore it. It should be worn after I wore it. It's college football, too. How about just retiring a name? Because if we start just winging off retiring college football numbers, your pass from number 129 is going to be completed to a number 187 because that's what we're going to be left with here. Dude, bigger fish to fry. Laramie Tunsil is not going to be available to you for the better part of the early half of the season. That'd be more important to me than what the hell LSU is doing with my number. And I'm not diminishing the fact that Jaden Daniels won a Heisman Trophy, but I will diminish the fact that he thinks nobody should ever wear it again. Now, you won a Heisman on a team that didn't even go to the playoffs. Playoffs? Yeah. And Joe Burrow's number hasn't been retired yet by LSU, for the record. It just hasn't been worn. Joe Burrow was on one of the greatest college football teams at LSU that we've ever seen. Go Tigers. By the way, I can't get enough of the Coach O videos back at LSU. Kiffin's exact comments. DJ is in number 5, and that was a situation that was promised to him in recruiting for him to sign here. I've done a lot of research on that with the family and the representatives and the people, so I didn't really have a decision to make. It was promised to the kid. It wasn't done for whatever reason. I'm not going to get into that. There's plenty of ways you can honor a player's legacy, and there's plenty of colleges that already do it this way, where you'll give out a number that was worn by somebody who was extremely successful on an extremely successful part of your program with a jersey patch that's honoring who wore it before. You know, we've seen it. Giving out the number 1 only gets worn. There's different ways to handle everything. But now we're gonna throw cease and desist, and we're disappointed in cement. His legacy is not being cemented. Shut up, seriously. And here's the last thing I'll say as far as the Jaden Daniels situation goes. Maybe I said seriously, phone, not Siri. Calm yourself. Maybe it's time to have a chat with Patrick Mahomes about how to handle family distractions. Just leave it at that. Cease and get out of here with your nonsense. Can we do anything in college football now without lawyers being involved? The answer is no. Can we? Can we get back to that? This is an excellent point. Absolutely. I mean, it's ridiculous, but that's what we've gotten to. It's another good point. You got Roz in his bag today. Yeah, and as he points on in his next comment, there's plenty of guys that wear the same number on offense and defense. I'm not going to complain about the NIL. I do agree with what you're saying here. Yes, it has completely left the barn door wide open. But I've got no problem with players making money when these colleges are making money hand over fist. But we're going to cry about somebody getting your number on defense too. That's the other funny thing about this. It's not like some other quarterback is wearing number 5 now. But if this is the start of what we're going to expect in college football season, man, is it going to be interesting stuff. It always is. But between Sorsby and everybody hates Texas Tech and LSU, and it's comedy. It's a complete comedy. Tuesday, Colorado's hosting an open practice for fans and reporters for the first time under head coach Prime, Deion Sanders. There's a catch, though, which, I mean, if you watched Colorado play football last year, they didn't catch a whole lot of anything but L's. You can't report, and everyone attending must turn in their phones. Quote, nothing observed at practice may be reported, published, posted, broadcast, or otherwise shared in any form on any platform at any time, Colorado said in an email. If you are uncertain whether something is reportable, the answer is that it's not. Fans and media attending will be required to hand over their phones, which will be held by Colorado, and returned after practice ends. Fan tickets to the practice sold out in a day. Reporters are asked not to report or characterize injuries, player participation, depth charts, rotation, position changes, schemes, trick plays, or situational packages in their reporting of practice. They're asked also not to report or characterize, quote, individual player performance in team or competitive periods, or, quote, any tactical, strategic, or personnel information of any kind. Violations of these guidelines may result in removal from the facility, revocation of credentials, geez, that was an easy word to say, English is easy for me, and a restriction of future access for the individual and the outlet consistent with the CU Athletics media policies, Colorado said in an email. Okay, this is one of those situations, our new favorite phrase on the show. Two things can be true. Number one, people are trying to make this an issue because it's Deion Sanders. Number two, it's Deion's house and it's Deion's rules. And they went 3-9 last year, so close practices are nothing new. This is open. It's his house rules. But at the same time, to try and divert attention from yourself and your program, just don't do anything worth a shit in an open practice. But if I bought a ticket already, because they sold out in a day, like the report says, and I showed up and you said, give me your phone or you can't come in, like, see ya. It's Colorado. You know I got nothing but love for Coach Prime here, but making this big of a deal and throwing it out there is making it a big deal. And because it's Coach Prime, we're going to make it a big deal. So what did college football give us today? Cease and desist. How dare you try and wear number 5 and give me your phone and don't be a reporter and report on practice. If this is any indicator of what the hell this college football season's going to be, man. Does LSU, since we know they go every 5 yards on their field, I mean, does LSU not have, like, are they not allowed to paint the number 5 on the field anymore now? Should we ask Jaden in his representation? I don't know. But I want to talk about some things that are fun to talk about in college football. And you know what? Some people like me at times, and I know the right people to talk to. And this guy is about as good as it gets right now. So joining me now, the host of Cashing Out on VSIN, Dustin Swedelson. What is going on, my man? Let me, I think you're muted.
Here we go. That's better.
There we are.
How we doing, Mike? What's going on, dude? How we feeling?
We're feeling away this morning. I mean, we might have to pause when it gets to 11:55. I don't want any litigation coming this way, any cease and desist kind of stuff. But how in the hell are you?
Oh, I'm glad you didn't wear my number, because if not, you'd have to hear from my legal representatives today. God, I heard you talking about it. This whole thing blows my mind. Like, go look at every other player who's won a Heisman. Their numbers have been repeated. Like, I specifically remember watching games thinking, oh, that's whoever's number. It's weird that it's on the third string cornerback's jersey, but whatever, we'll deal with it. I am shocked at Jaden Daniels being this petty about this. Because also, let's also be real. You didn't win a title. You just put up monster numbers because, and by the way, that's the only Heisman bet I've ever won is Jaden Daniels. But he only put up those stats because they didn't have a defense and he had Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors to throw to.
Yeah, that definitely helps. And that's what, I mean, that's my thing. And like, and I know I heard you talking about this the other night too. It's kind of ironic because everything with LSU is going to be weird, and we knew that because of Lane Kiffin. And then Sam Levitt's comments about not even knowing that Louisiana was a real place, and LSU is going back to the let's take an ASU quarterback and bring him over here thing. Like, I was a big fan of Sam Levitt. I'm seriously questioning his decision-making abilities now with this whole process. The dude walked on water at ASU.
You know what I'd add to it? So I grew up in New York. I went to college in southern Georgia, like the middle of nowhere, Valdosta State. And I would tell you this, if I I don't know if it would have been a good or bad thing had I been playing a sport when I got there, because one, it was a complete culture shock. We're talking grocery stores were different, interacting with people was different. Your day to day was just such a flip that it took me like a good year and a half, 2 years to understand what was going on around me. Now, he may benefit from the distraction of going from the West Coast, previously a kid who grew up in Oregon, down to Baton Rouge, where he's so locked in on football, it may not affect him that much because he's just living at the facility. And when you're a college football player at that level at LSU, you're just kind of handed your life, your schedule's given to you, your food's given to you, your clothes are given to you. He may benefit from that, but if there is some sort of just like overwhelming acclamation going on there with Sam Levitt, I would be concerned about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a concern, and it's funny, and I wasn't planning on us starting our discussion on college football this way, but we might as well keep it here, because the two teams to me that have me the most twisted right now are USC and LSU. Because I really don't know what to make out of either one of them. And with USC, I've said this, and I believe this, that I think USC, they have a tough schedule. They've beefed up the line because they finally realized, hey, we're playing Big Ten football now. I trust Jaden Maiava so much that it makes me forget how much I don't trust Lincoln Riley. And LSU, I think you can see a lot of those similarities there. Do you have a better feel for one of those two teams rather than the other?
You know what's funny is, well, LSU, I'm kind of bullish on because I think Lane's been waiting for this moment his whole life. And if it doesn't go well, it's going to look really bad. And sometimes pressure can create diamonds. For USC, you know what threw me off is I went into my research thinking, you know what? I don't know if this team's going to be very good. And I left it going, you know what? I kind of like USC. But then the schedule, like you brought up, I still don't think they're built to win on the road in the Big Ten. I still think there's a little finesse in their games. And I think the fact that you do have so many West Coasters as well, that always concerns me. They have to go to Wisconsin this year. That is going to be brutal because it's going to be colder. We're in October. And I think last year on the schedule, you look at that and you say that's a win. I don't know if that's a win with the improvements that Wisconsin made with Colton Joseph coming in. They also go to Penn State. That is a crazy environment. It is so hard to win on the road in Happy Valley. And then at the end of the year, UCLA's not a gimme anymore now. I think Bob Chesney and the Bruins are going to be awesome year one. So while I think USC is going to be a really solid football team, I'm actually not looking to do anything with them this year. I think week in, week out, they're going to be good. They're going to put up numbers, but it feels like they're kind of in that middle top section of the Big Ten this season.
Dustin Swedelson is our guest, the host of Cashing Out on VSIN. You can find him on X. His name's literally on the screen right there for you, and that's how you find him on X. Let's give me a team in college football this year that you're high on that you don't think a lot of other people are.
Ooh, that is a good. Well, Oklahoma State. I'm not sure everyone's like there yet. I think Mestamaker coming over could win the Heisman. I'm very big on what that situation could be, just because I think the Big 12 is really wide open. I think that's something that jumps out to me. I think Texas Tech is highly overrated. I'm on an island here. So because of that, I think there's opportunities within the Big 12 to look at some other options. Houston is a team I love in the Big 12. They're 16-1 to win the Big 12. Connor Wegman's back at quarterback. They also brought in a freshman that they love that may end up splitting time with Wegman, but Wegman's a former 5-star. He can rely on his legs. He's made plenty of plays. They grab this tight end who comes over from UTSA, Patrick Overmeyer, and that is exactly what fits that system. Tanner Koziel was a monster last year. They're going to have a ground game, and I think they hit the portal and spent money correctly. It feels like Houston is flying way under the radar in my eyes. So that is a team that maybe is off the beaten path that I'm higher on than some other people.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree with you there, and like I also really love BYU for the same reasons. I'm not quite as high on Texas Tech, but I wonder if BYU has enough weapons for Bear Bachmeier, and that's my only concern there. But the conference to me is about as wide open as it gets.
I totally agree. BYU would be the only other team I'm looking at in the Big 12. And you know what? I don't know if they need the skill. They have LJ Martin at running back, but the offense that they run, if they win at the line of scrimmage, and they usually have grown men like 25-year-old offensive linemen at the line of scrimmage, I think BYU is a scary team to deal with this year just because Bachmeier wasn't supposed to play at all last year. Mm-hmm. He now has that. The growth from year to year with the game slowing down. And somehow that program kept Kalani Sitake, who could have had the Penn State job, but opted to stay in Provo. I'm high on BYU as well. I'm fading Texas Tech. I know a lot of really sharp people love the Red Raiders this year, but BYU and Houston, those are two teams I am really into this season.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you there too. Now, anybody that's followed our show, a couple of the nicknames I've been given. I am the Dan Lanning Glazer, slurper, whatever adjective you want to put in here. I know you're high on the Ducks this year. Why don't you tell my people why I'm not just glazing Dan Lanning and you think Oregon can get it done this year?
Well, I mean, who eliminated the Ducks the last 2 years? The team that went on to win the national champion both seasons. They also had injuries last year that derailed them at running back. Those will be fixed this season. Davidson, there was a scare that he might be hurt. Turns out he's fine. Him and De'Aaron Hill Jr., that is as productive a combo. They were third in the league in the Big Ten in rushing yards a season ago. Offensive line's back. They do that year in and year out at Oregon. They have dudes at the line that push people around. Rely on that run game, but then the pass game is going to be unique. Evan Stewart back from injury. He's a burner. Decorian Moore in limited time last year was tremendous. Iverson Hooks comes in from UAB. They have another kid, a former 5-star, Gatlin Bear, under the radar. He was out last year because of a mission trip. That's another guy you have to factor in here in that offense. And then Dante Moore's back because he didn't want to be a New York Jet. I didn't even get into the strength of the team. That's the D-line. This is an NFL D-line. Bear Alexander is a pro. Amari Washington could have been a first-round pick last year. Matayo Uiagalelei is a monster off the edge. And then the secondary, it got boosted because they grabbed Coy Perich from Minnesota, who fixes everything on the back end. Dan Lanning is buttoned up. He is dialed in. He gets his team ready to play. They do not get punked. They do not get embarrassed. They have Phil Knight money to give them the depth they need to withstand a long season where there's attrition. Dan Lanning is kind of like what we see in the NBA. You cannot just show up and win a title. Curt Cignetti is the outlier for that in all aspects. But in most sports, you build, you get knocked down. You build, you get knocked down. Dan Lanning keeps building, going further, knocked down. This is the year he gets over the hump. I love the Ducks this season.
Dustin Swedelson, the host of Cashing Out on VSIN. You can also follow him on X at his name. Simple. I can't make this any easier for you. Before we slide over to the NFL side of things here, there's two more teams I feel like I got to ask you about. And because I'm the Dan Lanning Glazer around here, that usually leads to people thinking that I just hate Ohio State. I'm not very big on this Buckeyes team. And the one thing that when we were previewing the Big Ten that I advise people to keep in mind here, that defense lost a lot of talent. A lot of talent. And I think the expectation from everybody here at the beginning is that Ohio State's going to be Ohio State, and they have Sayan and they have Smith and blah, blah, blah. I think it's the defensive side of the ball that I'm concerned about the Buckeyes with. Am I crazy?
No, I'm totally with you. I mean, just think about the draft last year. We had rumors at one point that Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, and Caleb Downs should all be the first pick in the draft. All those guys are gone off this defense, plus McDonald on the D-line, a couple other pieces as well. I understand it's Ohio State, and I know that their pockets are deep and they always reload. I think Earl Little, who comes in from Florida State, is going to be a monster at safety. He ain't Caleb Downs, okay? And Matt Patricia got a lot of credit last year. Let's see what Matt Patricia does when he doesn't have all those top pedigree guys and he has to get these other players up to speed. Offensively, man, and by the way, I am an Ohio State hater. I hate this team every year. I think they're annoying. I think their expectation of just always being the national champion is so odd to me because if you go back and look, I mean, Urban Meyer had the run. Jim Tressel had the 1 year, right, where he knocked off my Miami Hurricanes in the Fiesta Bowl. But like, I think this program, while they're always talented and they're always loaded, I mean, they weren't Nick Saban in Alabama. Okay. Let's be very clear about that. And Julian's saying, I'll actually say this. I think I underrated his performance a year ago. And we'll see what he can do this year. He's got Jeremiah Smith back. He's got Chris Henry, the freshman, who's going to be a stud. Brandon Innes returns, and the run game should be good. But if they're going to win, they're going to get to the promised land, Julian Sayin has to go from game manager to a guy who can take over. And I have questions if that can actually happen. I think the production will look good, but can he make those fourth quarter throws? Can he ice a team away? Can he put them away? I don't know if Sayin can do that. That's my concern with this team. And until I see otherwise, I don't understand how they're the betting favorite to win the national championship this year.
Yeah, I think it's a great point there. And last one, because I do want to get into a little bit of NFL, but not keep you too long. I know you're a busy dude here, so
you're good.
And I'm going to set you up for this because I was watching last night. So let's talk about Texas, because you and I have a very mutual feeling on Steve Sarkisian. But you said something on the show last night that it finally settled me on where I expect Texas to go this year, that you think this Texas team is Sarkisian proof. Why should we buy the Longhorns if that's where somebody wants to go?
I think that's me saying that they could be. It's wishful thinking. That is the hope here. There is a world where that comes into play where they're just so dominant. And we'll find out quickly. Week 2 against Ohio State, if they look like I think they're going to look at home, by the way, this team is going to be your national title favorite. I mean, I'm not even big on Arch Manning. I think he's fine. I don't think he's going to win the Heisman. I don't think he's the number 1 pick in the draft, or at least if I was a GM, he wouldn't be my guy. But they have given him so much help. Offensive line is awesome. Cam Coleman, the number 1 receiver, comes in from Auburn. He's a stud. They're comparing him to Julio Jones. But he also returns Ryan Wingo at receiver, Emmett Mosley at receiver. They brought in a couple other people. They've got this 5-star Jermaine Bishop, who's supposed to be as fast as Xavier Worthy was. But the run game, being able to pound the rock with Hollywood Smothers, who was a stud at NC State, Raleek Brown, who comes over from Arizona State, they are going to be what Ohio State was when they won the title. Quinshawn Judkins coming in from Ole Miss alongside Travion Henderson, and they are just going to run it down your throat. That's what Texas should be doing. You have the best offensive linemen. You have studs down there in Texas. Why wouldn't you just pound the football? Defensively, they'll be very good because I think it's an upgrade to go from Pete Kwiatkowski to Will Muschamp as your DC. And Muschamp brought in linebacker studs that I think are going to make a big difference. So Rasheem Biles is a guy who has a ton of production when he was at Pitt last year. Justin Cryer comes over from Florida State. Marcus Boswell from Akron. Like, these are experienced guys that are going to make a difference. They have a new corner to get in the fold from Rutgers and Bo Masco, but he should be a huge upgrade for them on one side. I think when you look at this roster, this is the best roster in college football. This is the best team top to bottom. The only question is, can Arch Manning and Steve Sarkisian not screw this up for the Longhorns?
Yeah, and that's a gigantic question, and a lot of people are asking that exact same question. Let's pivot into the NFL, joined here by Dustin Swedelson from VSIN, host of Cashing Out. You can catch that on their network. Also, follow him on Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it. You know what I'm talking about. If you follow our show and you appreciate a sharp sense of humor, Dustin's way better at it than I am. So let's get into some NFL stuff here for a second, though, and another conversation you were having last night, because this is always the bet that I love to make every year. but I think I struggle with it because I haven't done the research enough with it. When we're talking defensive player of the year, and there's a lot of great candidates this year, there's a couple of guys that I really like, but one of them is more of a linebacker than an edge rusher, depending on who you ask. What's the key when you're looking at some of these futures as we sit a few weeks in? Let's start with the defensive player of the year. Where should you be looking if you're a new better to the market when you're trying to target a defensive player of the year?
When you go back and look, Mike, it's pretty much all pass rushers. Like over the last 15 years, twice it was a corner. Surtain 2 years ago, Stephon Gilmore a few years back. And then Luke Kuechly won as an inside linebacker in 13. Outside of that, it's Aaron Donald 3 times and a bunch of people who get after the quarterback. And right now in the market, Myles Garrett is such a big favorite. To me, that opens up opportunities for other guys to be a little bit longer than I would anticipate. And by the way, if Myles Garrett wins this award at 4.5 to 1, I will tip my hat. I will give him all the credit in the world. But I just am not going to tie my money up for this long for him to do that. And I want to look for upside. That's the thing that jumps out to me. Last year, I had a ticket on Nick Bonito. I think it was like 50 to 1, something like that. And he had a ton of sacks, but he ended up shortening up to around 3.5, 4 to 1, but he never really had a chance to win this award. And I want to look at a guy in Will Anderson who's the number 2 on the board. It's not like I'm going deep for a long shot here, but I think a case can be made that he's worth a consideration. 1, he's almost double the odds of Garrett. 2, he's 24 years old, and he's coming off a year where he had 12 sacks. There's a situation where he builds upon that, where he gets better, he becomes more dominant, he takes that jump as a player. And then let's also add this wrinkle into the mix. Houston is potentially the 1 seed in the AFC. Let's live in that world where that can happen. And I think the defense is good enough to make that happen. Well, if they get there, it's not going to be because of CJ Stroud. It's going to be because of the defense. There could be a scenario where the voters want to give Will Anderson some credit, and that makes the Defensive Player of the Year award almost like a defensive MVP, and his value to the defense, what he brings to the table. I think potentially Will Anderson could win this award. I do have concerns that Danielle Hunter gets so many sacks on the opposite side of him, but I do think the all-around game of Will Anderson could pop this year. That's why he's a guy I'm staring at and really considering to bet to win this award.
Thanks for not giving me a. I'm just going to bet Will Anderson and Nick Bonito and just call it good there. Because I did the same thing with Bonito last year.
Oh, you know who else I'm considering? But you tell me this. Other than Aaron Donald, right? It's so hard for a defensive tackle to pop. Could Jalen Carter with the Eagles, with some of the moves they made in the offseason where he might need to be more of a disruptor getting after quarterbacks, will the voters notice Jalen Carter's impact? Because he's 28 to 1, and I kind of want to bet that one.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating thing, and that's why, like, to me, the defensive, I mean, the MVP we know is going to be probably the best quarterback on the best team more times than not. The offensive player of the year is going to be Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, or somebody like that. It's the defensive player of the year is always so fascinating to me. I think that you could make a case for that because A, he plays in Philadelphia, and B, because they do need him to be more of a disruptor this year, and he had the contract situation. Like, he's another guy that I have this obsession. It's a sick obsession with whiteboards. They're all over my studio here, and it's like trying to read some kind of like hidden code. And the defensive player of the year is in like 7 different colors because I can't make up my mind there. And Carter's another one of those. He's another one of those guys. So let me go same way we kind of went with college football here. A team that you're high on in the NFL that not a lot of people are high on.
Ooh, well, I'm high on the Bengals, but everyone's high on the Bengals, which is like the scariest world to be in as a bettor. I might be high on Jacksonville. I just haven't gotten there yet. I might be high on the Bears. I haven't 100% gotten there yet. This is the problem with the NFL. I mean, part of me wants to believe in Minnesota, but the reality is, I heard a great film guy yesterday break down that Kyler Murray doesn't use the middle of the field at all because he can't see it. I don't know how that works this year. I'll go with the Chicago Bears because I think a lot of people are low on them because of the schedule, and people are high on the Lions because of their schedule. The Bears are a better football team than the Lions. So I'd prefer to take the risk that Chicago plays like the team I think they can be and win more of those contests. And the Lions, who had issues at corner before Terry and Arnold was released with his legal issues. They still need an edge opposite Aiden Hutchinson. The O-line's been a mess for 2 years, and they just lost their center. They're going to start a rookie at tackle. And this offense lost its identity when they unfortunately couldn't retain Ben Johnson because he's now the head coach of the Bears. So it's almost like liking one and not liking the other. It kind of goes hand in hand for me. I'll also add that Drew Petzing, their new OC, there was nothing about the Cardinals offense that led me to think that this guy could take them back to the promised land. So because I'm low on Detroit and I'm high on the Bears, I'll be risky and I'll take Chicago here. That's a team that I'm a bit higher on than everyone else.
All right. I'm going to give you a scenario here. I'm not going to be odds maker because I suck at doing that part of it, but does the Super Bowl champion come from the NFC West this year? I'm giving you 3 of 4 options there. Clearly, I'm not giving you one of them because we're not fools.
I'm going to say yes. And you know me, Mike. You know I love long shots.
Mm-hmm.
If the Rams don't finish the job this year, it is the greatest disappointment in the history of the NFL. This team was this close to being the 1 seed in the NFC. And if they do that, they host the NFC title game. They probably go to the Super Bowl. And what they did, they said in the offseason, oh, do we have any flaws? Not really, because we have Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. But if we had any flaws, maybe it's corner. Well, let's go get Trent McDuffie. Let's also sign Jalen Watkins. Oh, Myles Garrett is available? Screw it. We'll go all in. We'll get him too. So if they had any issues, it might have been corner. And somehow their pass rush got more beefed up. And oh, by the way, Aaron Donald could be returning as well in some capacity. I don't see how the Rams don't do this other than Matthew Stafford getting injured. That is the only thing that stands in their way. I'm not betting it at 5.5 to 1, but I do. This is one of those rare worlds where I'm going to show up NFL season and go, the Super Bowl favorite's correct. The Rams are going to win this thing.
It's a hard point to argue right now. All right, I got one more in the NFL. And then one final question for you. Dustin Swedelson, our guest, host of Cashing Out on VSIN. You can also follow him on X. His name's right on the screen for you. We try and make things easy around here. Where are you at? Because I love this when everybody gets so freaking heated about this every year. And I try and... My rule of thumb to everybody is your bankroll is not my bankroll, and my bankroll is not the guy down the street's bankroll here. Where are you at on betting preseason football?
I am into it, but I'm not. These aren't full unit bets. This is more about like getting your reps, seeing if like you have good angles that can be consistent. Because we do find that during the preseason, if you can find an angle that happens a few times throughout, you can exploit that situation. But I like betting preseason football just because. One, betting baseball at this point is horrible. It's impossible. I can't pick a winner to save my life. But betting preseason football, I also feel like it's good to get you back into the rhythm of what you're identifying and what you're looking for. It doesn't really translate over to the regular season, but it's more about the process that you're getting back into, looking for these opportunities. And I think the biggest thing I've learned the last couple of years when it comes to betting, my successful handicaps, more times than not, have nothing to do with sports. They have nothing to do with matchups or X's and O's. They are situation spots. They're scheduling spots. They're motivational angles. Those are playing out way better for me than anything I could ever do thinking, like I know more about sports than anyone else. So that is something that I think you can also use to translate in the preseason is that if you come in from the angle of, for example, I like Tennessee's team total in their first game. Why? You have 2 quarterbacks on the depth chart. One, Will Levis, who claims he's one of the top 32 in the league. And while I don't agree with that, I love that he thinks that and he wants to prove it. You also have Hendon Hooker, on that roster who wants to prove he can hang on in the league. So you combine that in there, you have two ultra motivated guys with a ton of experience playing in college. And it doesn't always work out that they will be as good as they believe they are. But I love that I'm going to get that chip on the shoulder and the hunger and desire that you just want to stay in the NFL out of them on that depth chart for Tennessee while they're implementing a new system. I really love looking for angles like that.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And, I mean, even, and I can speak to this as a 49er fan going through all the pain. I mean, you're not going to see a whole lot from the Niners tonight either, because they got to keep everybody in bubble wrap right now because everybody's freaking hurt there. And that's the thing is, like, and I've seen some people get freaking heated, and I'm not going to name names here because we know the same people, and I'm sure you can figure out some of these people that I'm talking about. Like, do what works for you. That's what I like. And we have a mutual friend that has been on the show, our guy Jared Smith. And one of the things that I heard him talk about the other day, and it makes a lot of sense, it goes along the same lines that you're talking about here, is it's like a live bet during a preseason game. It keeps you more engaged. It gives you a chance to kind of get a feel and stuff like that. But, like, I'm not going to waste time sitting here critiquing people who are or aren't betting preseason football. I actually have a couple that I'm playing tonight. And I do think for that, like, it gets you, like you said, gets you back into what am I identifying here? It's been 180 days since we've watched the football game, and you got to get your brain trained back to that set.
Yeah, and I also I just think look, I get people not wanting to do it, but I'm also not a big believer in like blindly betting one thing. I think for years people went, "Oh, I just bet unders in the NFL preseason." And it would drive me nuts when people would say that to me, because I'm like, "Hold on. You do understand that the bookmakers know that these games are going under, and eventually they're going to adjust these totals." And then we live in a world now where things have flipped completely, and it's more about offenses are showing up because we have more experienced quarterbacks on these rosters. There's a lot of guys battling. There's more sophisticated systems, and defenses just stop showing anything because they don't want anyone to have film on what they want to do before the season begins. So I think it's about finding what world we're living in right now. There was a section of our lives where John Harbaugh covered every single game in the preseason. It seemed like you have to watch for these ebbs and flows. If you don't want to bet the preseason, I don't blame you. But to me, there's something about the challenge and the unknown factor making this so much more difficult that I just want to find my angles to break these games down with.
Dustin Swedelson, my guest right here, host of Cashing Out on VSIN. You can follow him on X. Final question for you. I ask everybody that's in the sports betting space this when we bring them on the show. There's a lot of people new to sports betting as it becomes legal in damn near every state now. What's the best advice you've been given as a bettor, and what advice would you pass along to somebody that's new to it or somebody that's really trying to kind of get a better feel and a better handle for it?
Few things. I mean, I think the bankroll management is way more important than picking winners, because that's going to come and go. Like, I'm a streaky bettor. I'll go on 3-month runs where I'm hitting at a crazy clip, and then I'll go on 3-month runs where I can't win a bet. So I think being able to manage your bankroll when it's up and when you're down equally, that is a skill that you'll have to master on your own, and you'll learn the hard way. But I would encourage everyone to be very cautious about that as you get into it. When it's good, I don't like to change things up too much. Like, the second I do, if I ever do, if I start going a little bit harder with what my unit size is, without fail, I will lose, and I will lose my money twice as fast. So that is something that I'm very, very consistent in my betting. The other thing I'd say is I do best when I have the least amount of motion attached to the bet. Teams that I know the least about, even sports at times I know the least about. When I first started betting a lot, I was having a lot of success with like Sunbelt football. So specialization's also good, because those are sometimes, leagues that the bookmakers aren't totally locked in on. But my point is, I'm a Mets fan, I'm a Giants fan, and I'm more of a pessimistic fan. So I'm more likely to bet against my team than bet on my team. And that hasn't worked out either. So I think if you can look for betting opportunities where you don't have emotion attached to it, do that. And then finally, find things that work for you. And that's dabbling on player props. That's, focusing on totals. I started messing around with NBA player props a few years ago just because I was sick of everyone complaining about players being injured or people sitting out games. And I was like, well, if someone's out, someone else should benefit. And I've had a very good run for about 3-4 years just betting NBA props off the premise of who someone's out and who benefits. And if you can just find these angles that work for you, they don't hit all the time, but if you pick the right guys, you can be successful if you find the right angles that you really can hone in on and make it your thing.
We've got a Giants fan who's a big follower of our show in the comments, and I think I'd be remiss if I let you go and I didn't ask you what your expectations for the Giants are this season.
So I'm annoying here. Despite being a pessimistic Giant fan, I think that this is the best Giants team we've had in a while because we have adults running it. You have a guy in John Harbaugh who may have lost his fastball in Baltimore. We'll find out very quickly if that's the case with, one, how the Ravens look, and two, how the Giants look. But I think that him coming in after what this organization's been through, Brian Daboll, not a head coach. Joe Judge, not a head coach. Pat Shurmur, not a head coach. Ben McAdoo, not a head coach. Okay, none of those guys getting sniffs anytime soon to be a head coach again. Now you have a guy with a track record, and he has a system and a program where he can show up and hit the ground running. I think they're going to be so much more buttoned up and have so much more attention paid to the details. But they also brought in pros. I think that's very important. The offense wasn't an issue last year. The O-line finally wasn't an issue last year. The defense was an issue. And I'm not concerned about losing Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence was good at getting after the quarterback. They have plenty of guys who can get after the quarterback. Dexter Lawrence, in the middle of this defense, still had them as one of the worst run defenses in the NFL a season ago. They brought in a couple guys that I think can be good there, but more importantly, they've got pass rushers. They have a legitimate middle linebacker in Tremaine Edmonds for the first time in forever. He'll pair with Arvell Reese. Abdul Carter is there as well. You factor in Brian Burns. You have Kayvon Thibodeau coming off the bench getting after quarterbacks. And I think most importantly, the secondary, which got exploited, you have two new pieces coming in, Greg Newsome and Colton Hood, the rookie out of Tennessee. We'll see if Hood starts right away. I don't think he will, but eventually I think he'll start. I think every aspect of this defense got completely upgraded and transformed. And I think the defense is going to be so much better. The offense doesn't have to carry the load. The offense will be very, very good. I like them over 7.5 wins. I think there's a world where they make the playoffs, but it's more likely they just miss out. But I like them getting to 8-9 wins.
Right on cue when you were naming all the coaches that have gone through there. It's giving me PTSD with all these names. Dude, that was way longer than we talked about. I appreciate the hell out of you. Let's make sure it's not the last time. How do our people consume your stuff? Give them the schedule. Are you doing the Saturday desk for VSIN again, too?
Yeah, Sunday through Thursday, I'm 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern. And then Saturday, I don't know what time I'm doing yet, but I will be doing college football Saturdays once again, taking people through the live action. And follow me on X, Instagram, TikTok, Dustin Swedelson, all the info's there. Mike, I appreciate you, dude. Thanks for having me on the show.
I appreciate you too, my brother. We'll be watching, and let's do it again soon sometime.
Sounds good. Be good, man.
All right, you too. Dustin is as good as they get, man. And I'm telling you, like, the people that we follow in that space, we follow them for a reason, and there's specific reasons. Hopefully you got something out of that. I think you did. I know I did. And I was already following Dustin and watching his stuff. I'll tell you right now, if you're a YouTube TV guy, and no, I'm not getting paid by them. I don't get anything for this. The $4 a month it costs you to have the VSIN add-on to your YouTube TV subscription is beyond worth your money. You can see another guy that we've had on the show, and we'll have back on the show here soon, our guy Jared Smith. You just saw Dustin there. You've seen Bill Krackenberger. These are the guys that we trust in the space. There's several others as well that we're trying to run down for you. So we appreciate Dustin taking the time there. Plenty of other stuff going on. Let's get a quick day baseball update in the D. Runners on first and second with 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th. Tigers at the plate. Max Clark up 3-0 lead already for the Tigers there. Pittsburgh has opened it up on Miami 10-0 in the top of the 9th. 9-5 the Reds ahead of the White Sox. Yankees and Mariners in another offensive display from the Bronx. It's 1-0. Seattle with the lead. Dude, that American League West is just absolutely pitiful. Just horrible baseball in the American League West. Seattle looked like they quit on the season months ago. And if you're a fan up in the Pacific Northwest, thank God for Hard Knocks kind of tiding you over right now. And thank God that you're not that far away from the Seahawks season starting, because the Mariners are miserable to freaking watch right now. We've also got the Red Sox and the Jays just underway from the Rogers Center as the Red Sox look to avoid the sweep. Wilson Contreras with a double in the first inning to give them a 1-0 lead. That's Max Scherzer and Peyton Tolley in that matchup. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, and I wanted to get this out before we got out of here today, but kind of an interesting report floating out there from Jesse Rogers from ESPN that the Major League Baseball owners proposed a $245.3 million salary cap and a $171.2 million payroll floor starting in 2027. Now the key to this, if you've done the digging already, if you've already seen this, the MLB owners proposed this. Now, you know how I feel about cap and floor and what I feel is more important. I think we need the floor before we need the cap. That doesn't mean I'm not saying that I think a salary cap wouldn't do baseball wonders. But then you do this, and you look at this list right here, and it might not be the easiest thing to see, and I apologize. I didn't have time to blow it up big enough here. But the owners proposed a floor at $171 million. Well, let's do some generic math here. This is why TJ's on the show mainly, because he's a math wizard. He could have done this already for me, but I'll do it here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 teams below a $171 million floor. So by proposing this, are the owners outing themselves? Because all of those owners are saying they could have spent $171 million, but chose not to. That makes zero sense. Now let's look at who's actually on this list. Milwaukee, $164 million. Second best record in baseball. But let's look at the rest of this. Kansas City, whose pitching is absolutely ass this year. You've got 2 tremendous young players, and these aren't the only 2, but in Bobby Witt and Jack Caglione. You got Salvi Perez, who's still producing, and you couldn't spend money on pitching. The Angels, we've talked plenty about the Angels. The Twins, who are only in the race because most of the American League sucks. The Rockies, who have been considerably better. The Pirates, what the hell's going on there? Then you've got the White Sox, obviously probably the best story in baseball this year. The Nationals, who have been a really good story. The Rays, the Cardinals for most of the year have been a really good story. You've got the Athletics, you've got the Guardians, middling, no offense again today. I mean, not that I'm complaining because I bet it under 8.5, but they've got no runs on the board. I mean, you've got that many owners saying, well, the floor should be $171 million. Then why the hell didn't you spend the money already? What does it do to the rest of the league? Yeah, it chops off some of the teams at the top. But I said this on Tuesday, and I firmly believe this, that the key here is you need the Dodgers to win the World Series this year. Because I do believe if they do, there are enough players that are going to say, screw this. It isn't a fair situation, and I'm tired of it. I'm not saying all of them. These guys love their money, and all of us would love that kind of money. But if the Dodgers don't win the World Series, you've got two completely opposite case points here in the Mets and the Dodgers. See, buying everything doesn't guarantee you wins. Now, if you were watching the show last night, A, we appreciate you, and B, I told you who I went all in on to get to the World Series. I think it's going to be Tampa and Chicago. The Dodgers bullpen still concerns me. Edwin Diaz would very much concern me. I think Roki Sasaki is the answer for them in the playoffs in a closing role. Whether or not they do that, I don't know. Dodger haters will say Doc Roberts isn't a good manager because you can buy everything and blah, 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 blah. That many owners kind of outing themselves today, I don't think is a good bargaining chip. Field of Dreams game tonight, Phillies and Twins. Kind of talked about that yesterday. I know there's a lot of the betting apps that are putting out a lot of boosts and bonuses for tonight's game. The only thing I will advise you of, weather is going to be possibly an issue in tonight's game from Dyersville, Iowa, 4:30 on Netflix. Netflix could have to put on weather delay theater tonight. But Aaron Nola and Taj Bradley is your pitching matchup there. Aaron Nola has given up 29 home runs this season. And Taj Bradley, not much better. He's given up 17. They've both, Bradley 131 innings pitched, Nola at 125 innings pitched, but Nola 3-9 with a 5.47 ERA this year. Bradley is at least 9-4 at a 3.76. But there are a lot, and I've seen them all morning. Like, I think every single betting app that I have has put out some kind of promo contest. I know there's a total bases one for tonight's game that you can win a share of $500,000. The only thing I'm going to say, I'm not a meteorologist. I ain't that smart. Definitely not that smart. I mean, never mind. I'm not going to do that. I've got some friends in the business, so I'm not going to say it. But just be cautious of what your expectations are there. If the weather's fine, I mean, I think you could see balls hit into the cornfields all friggin' night there. But just keep in mind the weather could be an issue. We've got Cubs and Nats coming up from Washington in about 30 minutes here. Cleveland down to their final outs. Cleveland and the Tigers just late season lapping each other. And Joe Adell is lined out to left field. So Detroit, another win for the Tigers. Somehow they're hanging around, man. Somehow they're hanging around. I don't know how, but they are. So plenty of stuff. As I've mentioned to you guys, and as we get a little bit closer here, we'll start to peel back the onion. But we've got a lot of changes coming up for football season. I'm very, very excited about. A little bit more stuff, more guests, a lot of stuff we've been working really hard on for quite a while. Let's go a check of the St. Jude. Right now, we have a three-way tie in first. Michael Thorbjornsen, Jordan Spieth, Kurt Kitayama, all in the clubhouse with 65s, the 5 under 65s. A lot of guys still getting out on the course. Actually, I think now, no, everybody is on the course now. We've got a handful of guys finished. Rory McIlroy, miserable day, did not have the worst day. Robert McIntyre at a plus 1282 today. Wonder if he flipped off any cameras. McIlroy, second to last, only McIntyre worse. He was a plus 474, so a lot of guys out. Where's my boy Sam Burns at? Sammy's 2 under through 9, so he's in the top 10. A lot of your usual players there. Chef is at 2 under. There's a boatload of guys in at 2 under, still on the course at 2 under. If you were watching the show last night, let me check one more quick thing here. I highly doubt that he's not going to be in the lineup. And there we go. So dollar dingers from last night. Let's throw that up on the screen. There we go. That's a little better. Pete Crow Armstrong is my guy tonight. Cody Clemens is TJ's pick, and Mac is going to find Nimmo at Angels Stadium tonight. I love the Angels tonight, by the way. I don't know why, and that's probably not a wise choice. But I'll say this. Walbert Urena, despite being 7-8, that's an Angels problem, not a Urena problem. 283, 129 whip this year, 97 strikeouts in 101 innings. He's only given up 6 home runs. And as we know, the Texas Rangers literally define mediocrity at 60 and 61. And if you trace back over the last couple years and you look at their records over the last couple years, like the Giants aren't anywhere close to middling. The Rangers are the definition of 500. I mean, that's kind of where we're at with that. So plenty of stuff in next week's log for us. Tuesday, daytime show, again, through the month of August. Tuesdays and Thursdays will be daytime shows. Wednesday night, it'll be TJ and myself. We will get into the AFC West, as well as continue our golf bet. If you missed it last night, we've got a three-way bet going between Tej, Mac, and myself. As far as plays that I made today, I did go a couple of preseason games. We've got 5 of them on the schedule for tonight, if I was counting right. Titans and 49ers, Lions, Bengals, Packers, Steelers, Colts, and Patriots. Carson Beck and Fernando Mendoza from Las Vegas. We've got 6 games. Chargers and Texans also tonight. If you're going to bet preseason football, you're going to bet preseason football. Everybody's bankroll is different. Make sure you are following the people that are in the know, the guys that are on the ground, the guys and girls that are on the ground that are covering the teams on the day-to-day basis. We've seen some coaches come out and say, for example, like Zach Taylor, that the Bengals starters are going to play. We've seen other teams, like we know, like the 49ers, that are probably going to keep guys in bubble wrap. It'll be interesting to see tonight. I mean, who would have thought Fernando Mendoza and Carson Beck going after each other? But I did take the Bengals minus 6.5 tonight. I don't like to ever drop a touchdown in preseason, but that Bengals full squad of offense out there is enough to make me think they'll get that. But on the flip, I'll give you the supplementary information if you hate that bet. That Zach Taylor in the preseason, not very good. It's preseason football. You're a degenerate. No, there's angles to play. There's situations to play, as Dustin was talking about there. Colts and Patriots, it's another one. You know, Danny Dimes isn't going to play in the preseason at all. But Anthony Richardson's going to be put kind of on the spotlight. And then you've got Riley Leonard. So I like the Colts in New England tonight. As far as anything else goes, I am going to play Bryson Stott for 3 hits, runs, and RBIs tonight. Cubs and Dodgers together on a parlay. Kind of a light day. And that's the other thing too, is it's hard sometimes. You want action, but sometimes there's not action to get. I want to give Eric Lauer some flowers before I get up on out of here, because, you know, obviously the Dodgers are a hot button topic for everybody. You know, buying everything and blah, 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 and they don't develop shit. You know, those are the Dodger haters. Tonight, you've got Shane Drohan and Roki Sasaki on the bump for the Dodgers. Brewers and Dodgers. Brewers coming off of that sweep at the hands of the Padres, who have gotten hot, just like the Blue Jays have, just like the Tigers are. Kind of an interesting situation here, though. But when you look at it, last night, Eric Lauer for the Dodgers was great again. And here's my point on the Dodgers, that I can't emphasize this enough. Lauer goes 6 1/3 last night, 112 pitches. I don't remember if that was the deepest or the most pitches he's ever thrown in a game, but it was right up there. But he goes 6 1/3 last night, 4 hits, only 1 earned, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. The Dodgers are 10-1 when Eric Lauer is on the bump. Tell me 29 other teams, well, we know what point of the season we're at. Tell me 18 other teams couldn't have benefited from Eric Lauer? When you just leave these guys there, culture is a big part of this. And Eric Lauer, 10-1 the Dodgers are when he starts this year. Something to keep up here as you go forward, something to keep up there as you go into the postseason. Yeah, well, we already know he is, because Richardson's going to be out. And again, I'll say what we put out on our social channel the other day. Anthony Richardson should have never been drafted where he was drafted. Never. It was a weak year for quarterbacks. Bryce Young went first. CJ Stroud went second. Dustin was just talking about why he likes the Titans team total against the 49ers today, because Will Levis, who was taken in the second round of that draft, who thinks he's one of the best 32 in the world, Will Levis was in that draft also. Anthony Richardson should have never been drafted where he was drafted. And I had a couple people come after us in the comments of that video the other day, like, well, they needed a quarterback. They had a quarterback. They had Gardner Minshew. And you look at some of the guys in that draft that were drafted after the Colts, and the first guy I'll bring up is Bijan Robinson. And everybody's going to go, well, they didn't need Bijan Robinson. They had Jonathan Taylor. Could have upgraded your running back. Maybe not an upgrade. Cost you less money. Maybe you had both of them there. Indy forced the pick of Richardson because he had a big arm. He was on an average Florida team, and he was average. I hope that he latches on somewhere. But I'm also not shocked. That's also why I like the Colts tonight, because they're going to give Richardson a chance to showcase himself. And then their backup quarterback, Riley Leonard, also going to be in the mix there. So it is what it is. Beauty lies in the eyes of the bet holder. Again, next week, Tuesday and Thursday day shows. Wednesday nights, we will get into our second to last divisional preview in the NFL with the AFC West. If you've watched the show long enough, TJ and the AFC West is the match made in heaven that you know you wanted to hear. We appreciate everybody. Again, follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show. Until next week, you know the drill. For everybody behind the scenes, we appreciate you. Until next week, we'll talk with you then. We'll talk with you on our socials this weekend. But for now, big thanks to Dustin Swedelson of Swedelson. I don't know why I keep butchering that today. Dustin Swedelson from VSIN, cashing out. Follow him on X at Dustin Swedelson. We'll talk with you next week. For now, I'm out.